Can we start the webcast now? Thank you. Good morning, members and honorary aldermen and members of the public. I'm very pleased to welcome you to today's council meeting and thank you to honorary aldermen for your attendance. Unfortunately, the Vice Chairman is unable to be with us today. Therefore, Councillor Burgess is assisting me. If you wish to speak on an item, please raise your hand to be added to the list. A few housekeeping announcements before we start the main business of the day. A fire alarm test is not scheduled for this morning. Therefore, if the fire alarm is activated, please leave the room, exit the building as soon as possible and make your way to the fire assembly point outside the Great Hall. Mobile phones are to be turned off or put on silent. I have to remember to do that myself first, so just hang on. Thank you, members. Can we please have apologies for absence?
Thank you, Chairman. Apologies have been received from Councillors Lulu Bowerman, Adrian Collett, Gavin James, Kirsty North, Roger Price, Patricia Stallard, Sean Woodward, and from Honorary Alderman Christopher Carter and Frenette Dickens. Thank you.
Thank you, Debbie. Declarations of interest. All members who believe they have a disclosable pecuniary interest in any matter to be considered at the meeting must declare that interest and, having regard to Part 3, Paragraph 1.5 of the County Council's Members' Code of Conduct, leave the meeting while the matter is discussed, save for exercising any right to speak in accordance with paragraph 1.6 of the Code. Furthermore, all members with a personal interest in a matter being considered at the meeting should consider, having regard to part 5, paragraph 4 of the Code, whether such interest should be declared, and having regard to part 5, paragraph 5 of the Code, consider whether it is appropriate to leave the meeting while the matter is discussed, save for exercising any right to speak in accordance with the Code. Thank you. Can we please go to the minutes on page 5? Shall we start with page 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5? Members, the minutes of the council meeting on the 29th of September are before you. Can I sign the minutes as a correct record? Thank you. Deputations. Can I please ask Abbe Allen and Mac Joel for Bin the Buns to speak? Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning, Chair and Council members. I am Abbe Allen, a resident of North Farnborough. And with me today is Mac Johal, our local pharmacist and small business owner. We would firstly like to thank you for the opportunity to address our concerns with you within this deputation. Around the start of this year, the County Council approved the erection of buns, which are mounds of earth directly opposite our local convenience stores on Chapel Lane in North Farnborough. The buns were originally installed as a low-cost measure to prevent drivers reversing out of the shops onto a busy Chapel Lane. We recognise the buns were installed with the best of intentions. However, they have sadly not worked out in practice. And as a result, I started a petition supported by hundreds of local residents urging reconsideration. Our concerns with the buns include their appearance, congestion, safety, antisocial behaviour, and their impact on the environment. We've also seen drivers continuing to reverse onto Chapel Lane, suggesting that they have sadly not achieved their purpose. On appearance, the buns were intended to be a rockery. However, despite the best efforts of volunteers and spending money on flowers, they are effectively heaps of mud with what looks like rubble sprinkled on top. For about half of the year, the flowers are dead. Quotes from residents who have signed our petition include unsightly and downright ugly, hideous, an eyesore, it's effectively council-endorsed fly tipping, and finally, one resident has said, I think I can safely say that I've never seen such ugly monstrosities. Moving on to congestion. The installation of the bunds has increased congestion in the shopfront lay-by due to fewer parking spaces there. It is true that the council removed some double yellow lines from a nearby cul-de-sac, the Covert, in an attempt to mitigate this. However, the area needed significantly more parking to ease congestion. The fact is that parking congestion has got significantly worse since the bunds were installed, and the mitigation effort has not helped. Moreover, with vehicles parked on either side of the road by the Covert, which is a narrow road, there have been reports from residents that emergency vehicles have been prevented from accessing their properties due to the congestion. As one person who signed the petition said, the current layout is terrible. It's a waste of space of good parking. It's a waste of good parking space for such a busy run of shops. On safety, children regularly climb the bunds, and there have been reports of children falling into the road and on top of vehicles. Drivers sometimes mount the pavement to park there because of the reduced parking by the shops. And I've already mentioned the issue with emergency vehicles on the Covert. We have concerns that elderly, vulnerable, and people with mobility issues are unable to access the essential services of the pharmacy due to the congestion issues and are in some instances not being able to collect medication. I have seen, and others have told me, of people still reversing onto Chapel Lane. And it's difficult to quantify this without watching the area 24/7, but I'm concerned that the bunds have created additional safety issues without resolving the issue it was initially intended to fix. On antisocial behaviour, there are concerns that the bunds may become a target for antisocial behaviour and vandalism. Indeed, some of the flowers have already been damaged. The bunds are also a dumping ground for litter, especially takeaway boxes, which does little to improve their appearance. And on environmental impact, many people visiting the Chapel Lane shops leave their engines running and idling because of the difficulty in finding somewhere to park. This results in increased air and noise pollution in the area. Local residents and I are asking for three things. Firstly, removal of the bunds. Residents would like to see the reflattening of the land and the installation of safer and more attractive measures such as fencing to prevent the dangerous vehicle movements. Secondly, we'd like to see additional parking spaces. The area previously provided 3 to 5 additional parking spaces, which were easily accessible, allowing residents to support local shops and businesses. Residents would like these reinstated, with additional parking bays created should space allow. We would encourage using low-cost and environmentally friendly parking grids, like those used in the nearby Moore Road Park redevelopment. And finally, we'd like to see bicycle racks and storage. Many residents would like to use push bikes for shorter journeys, and many children use bikes to and from school. By having safe storage and shelter, we can reduce emissions and encourage more bicycle use by providing confidence and assurance that bikes are secure while shopping. In turn, this may also encourage more residents to cycle. Whilst residents can appreciate the sentiment behind erecting the bunds, they are disappointed at the decision to support such an unsightly and dangerous development in their neighbourhood. There is no shame in listening to the community, admitting that the project has not worked and going back to the drawing board. Local residents and I would therefore ask that you please consider our deputation, reconsider the bunds, and consider the request that we have made to you today. Sadly, we weren't able to provide you with a visual. However, this can be viewed on change.org by searching Chapel Lane bunds. I will now pass over to Mac, who will tell you about what these bunds have meant for his business and his concern for our community as a local pharmacist. Thank you for your time, Chair and Council members. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning, Chair and Council members. Again, like Abe, I very much appreciate the opportunity you've given us. Just a little bit background, a personal background. Abe's done a very good job in terms of the overall picture that he's painted. But I purchased the pharmacy on April Fool's Day, 1993. That's a telling time, April Fool's Day. I purchased it, so with 2 full-time staff. We now have 18/19 members of staff and a very busy pharmacy providing a lot of innovative services. And our biggest complaint at the minute is about parking and access to those services. As you can appreciate, lots of things have changed the last 3 years with COVID, etc., and the big increase in service of the GP appointments. We've been helping the GPs and the practices in taking some of the pressure off, either through people walking through the doors into the pharmacy asking for advice, or NHS One referring patient directly to us, or the GP practices referring through patient directly to us as well. So this has led to an increase in the footfall of the area over the last 3 years, and people are taking longer in the pharmacy because it's more clinically focused rather than just handing a bag of medicines over. We employ 3 pharmacists to give a great service to the patients, and that has been obviously recognised, and that's why we're so busy. Excuse me, I'm not as eloquent as Abe is, but I'll try my best. The parade itself has got much busier over the years with a busy Tesco Extra and what I call the 4th emergency service, Domino's Pizza. So all in all, over the last 30 years, it's substantially grown in busyness. I appreciate the steps that Council has taken to mitigate the issues we have and improve the parking on the parade, but unfortunately, the situation has not improved. And currently, as pharmacies being used much more, we feel that the situation needs to be reappraised and to improve the layout of the lay-by in front of the shops. Thank you, Chair and Council members.
Thank you both for your deputation. Can we please move on to Pamela Charwood about Titchfield Haven?
Good morning, Chairman and members. Thank you for allowing me this opportunity to speak about the County Council's plans for Titchfield Haven National Nature Reserve. For those who don't know Titchfield Haven, it lies either side of the River Meon as it flows into the Solent at Hill Head. It is the most beautiful area. If you haven't visited, please do. As many of you will know, on the 27th of September, the Council published its plans to shut the visitor centre in Haven House and sell that building and the Grade 2 listed Haven Cottage. I represent Hill Head Residents Association, which has led the campaign to oppose the closure of the visitor centre, which receives 85,000 visitors a year. I wish to put to you today the reasons why the executive member, on his decision day on the 8th of December, should not make the decision to close it on the 23rd of December. My views are shared by 13,600 people who have signed our petition and the hundreds who have written to Councillor Oppenheimer. There is a massive groundswell of opinion amongst not just local people, but those who come from further afield. The Council's business case sets out the need to realise capital in order to fund backlog and ongoing maintenance on the nature reserve itself. We fully understand and support the need for the reserve to be in a condition to meet the statutory requirements of an SSSI and Ramsar site. We also understand the very real issues and challenging financial position facing Hampshire and all other local authorities. But we do not agree that closing and selling a facility that is used by 85,000 visitors a year and has great potential to generate increased revenue is the right, let alone the only way to achieve that. It's too easy for those who do not know Titchfield Haven well to think the visitor centre is simply the point of entry to the nature reserve and the cafe. And indeed, it's a very good cafe. But it fulfills a very much wider role. It's a focal point, a community hub. And on the 11th of November, it was listed by Fareham Borough Council as an asset of community value. It has educational value, providing information about ecological and environmental issues and local history going back more than 10,000 years. School groups and families, children, can visit and watch real-time videos of eggs hatching. It's a location for ornithologists and community groups such as U3A to meet. It's much used by local artists and craftspeople. Do pop down on Saturday. It has social value. It's accessible and inclusive. Older people, many quite isolated, feel safe going there alone. Parents with small children and wheelchair users can access it easily. It promotes the health and well-being of the 85,000 visitors who use it, first through its physical health value. It's walking distance for many people. The elderly couple, one 87, the other 91, who walk the 1.5 miles from their house every day, have their cup of coffee and their toasted tea cake, and then walk the 1.5 miles back. 3 miles for a very elderly couple who would certainly not walk in circles round the roads. It's also a useful stopping place for those walking from Leon-Solent, Warsash and Titchfield, and of course is on the recently established England Coast Path. Very importantly, it has mental health value. During the pandemic, people have learnt the value of being in the open air. The location and views from the centre are unparalleled, and they simply lift one's spirits. At the same time as Hampshire County Council set out its proposal to close the centre, which is a dementia-friendly, fully accessible meeting place for disabled people, older people, many others, it launched its Chatabout scheme as part of World Mental Health Day, a great initiative. Chatabout aims to encourage local organisations and community groups to provide a welcome space in which people can gather to connect and to chat. A perfect description of the centre which Hampshire wishes to close. Moreover, Mental Wellbeing Hampshire identifies 5 ways to promote well-being, all of which are facilitated in one way or another by the centre. Central Government and the County Council, of course, have recently launched their Warm Places initiative. Haven House Visitor Centre is a perfect warm place that doesn't even need an extra grant from the leader of the County Council to be open throughout the winter. Hillhead Residents Association, working with Hampshire and Isle of Wight Wildlife Trust, intend to put forward proposals for the future running of the nature reserve and the visitor centre. We are confident that we can identify secure funding streams for the future, which will enable those 2 bodies, the Trust and the Residents Association through a trust, through a charity, to take responsibility for the reserve and the visitor centre and allow Hampshire to divest itself of all future funding responsibilities for them. But the first step is that it must not be shut on the 23rd of December. Valued and experienced staff will be made redundant just before Christmas, and volunteers will be lost. The building will be left empty in the middle of winter. Believe me, it's a pretty exposed site for an empty building. And those 85,000 visitors will have nowhere to go. The momentum among those whose support will be central to the future funding of the site will be lost. It must remain open while the future plans are developed. And that is not just my personal view, it's not just Hillhead Residents Association view, it is the view of the 13,600 signatories of the petition and the hundreds who have written to Councillor Oppenheimer. I do hope that in the coming weeks, Hampshire will be open and listening to their views. And thank you for allowing me to speak today.
Thank you very much, Pamela. Now we move on to Carolyn Kirkman and David Learmouth, a Safer Cart and Horses Junction.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today. My name is David Learmouth, and I live in Kingsworthy. This is Caroline Kirkman, and she lives in Itchen Abbas. In between our respective villages and houses, lies what is widely known as the Cart and Horses Junction, or to be more precise, a double junction. Via your member services team today, hopefully some of you have been able to see a map of the junction. If not, hopefully you'll be able to look at that after the presentation and refer back to it. Well, the safety perils of this double junction may not be familiar to you, but rest assured, it is to us. In fact, I stood in this very spot 6 years ago, precisely to the day, to highlight to the council the dangers that this junction layout and signage presents to all road users. Well, an awful lot has happened in those 6 years, locally, nationally, and globally. But unfortunately, very little has happened regarding our request to reduce the dangers associated with this junction. Dangers that are highlighted by a summary of accidents that have occurred at the junction in the very brief time that Caroline and I have been in conversation. We thought it relevant to share these with you. So 5 weeks ago, on the 18th of October, a van overturned at the junction. 1 week later, a motorist tragically lost their life while trying to cross the junction. On the 1st of November, a coffee roaster's van was hit by a southbound vehicle on the speedy A33. 7 days later, a collision resulted in one car being written off. And then on the 14th of November, we heard of another two-vehicle collision. Goodness only knows what might happen today or tomorrow. Yes, this junction is dangerous, but to tell you about it in much more detail and to summarise the concerns of many of the local residents, I'd like to hand over to Caroline.
Thank you. I'm tired of hearing about this junction. The time it takes to discuss, avoid, or drive through is annoying. The damage to people's cars and confidence is avoidable. The confusion is aggravating. The cost in policing, paramedics, and environmentally is absurd. I moved to Kingsworthy in 2001 and to Itchen Abbas in 2007, so I have been using this junction in various ways for 21 years. In that time, the junction has always been a challenge. The number of minor and major accidents seems to call for a better solution to any of those that have been tried. When you have a situation that means that there is confusion about how a junction works, then there is a problem with that junction. Even the local folk disagree about how it is meant to be used. Major road over minor road, or right-hand turn from minor road over slip road on the major road being the major disagreements. Some of the recent accidents have actually been cars turning right from the A33 from Basingstoke, hitting cars going straight on the A33 coming from Winnell. So are not even as a direct result of the confusion, but I suspect that the confusion of the junction and the lack of patience, because everybody believes that they are in the right, reduces people's awareness of the vehicles that are simply using the road. I don't know what the long-term solution is. I'm not a road planner. Short-term may simply be a sign saying, take it in turns. I wrote to Councillor Adams-King about the junction following the fatality and received a reply that said, in essence, it was important not to have a knee-jerk reaction and to await the outcome of an accident investigation. A knee-jerk reaction that takes 21 years. Wow. The problem with analysing individual accidents is that each accident can be reduced to an individual driver's fault. Yet this junction is the thing at fault. 2 days after my email and receiving the standard response, my son had an accident there. Him coming from Winnell on the A33 and a driver of a van turning right from the Basingstoke onto London Road, who pulled in front of my son, who was fortunately slowing down prior to turning into the Itchen Abbas Road. The 1-year-old car is written off. Our insurance is impacted, and the van driver admitted he simply hadn't seen the car. Ironically, while waiting for everything to be sorted, a Hampshire County Council employee came along to collect the footage from an accident that had happened there a week before. He collected our footage as well. The off-duty paramedic who attended said that he drives through this junction often when he is off-duty and regularly ends up helping at incidents. To be clear, the fact that my son had an accident there doesn't impact my decision to be here. It merely made it more appropriate. It seems madness that the Junction 9 roadworks will create a safer and more usable road system only to have an accident hotspot less than a mile away. So can we just stop talking about this annoying, aggravating, absurd junction and do something that will work?
Thank you, Caroline. So to repeat Caroline's final words, can we please just stop talking about this junction and to do something about it to reduce its dangers? Our ask of the Council today is firstly to put in place short-term, temporary measures to address three key issues. To address the duplicate and conflicting giveways at the junction. To address the need to ensure that vehicles give way to the southbound A33 vehicles when they sit in the central reservation, and to put in place speed cameras either side of the junction on the A33, whilst also considering a further reduction of speed to 30 miles per hour. Then secondly, we're asking for the Hampshire County Council Highways team to develop, in agreed time frame, the best possible redesign of this junction, with this design being unconstrained by budget limitations and available for public scrutiny and feedback. With the accidents that occur here so regularly, we really do not think this is too much to ask for, and we very much look forward to your feedback. Thank you.
Thank you very much. On behalf of the County Council, I'd like to thank all of the speakers for attending the meeting today. If you would like to observe the remainder of the meeting, you're welcome to do so from the public gallery. Thank you very much. We now come to item 5, which is Chairman's announcements. I've been doing quite a lot of work in between coming to meetings and things, but I've had 4 royal visits this year, which is unheard of, I think. It's been really busy. I've gone to some really, really amazing places. The one thing that does well, there are 2 things. I went to the centre for that they've built for reablement of animals, and it was just amazing what they've done there. And the young people that are learning so much that will go into some sort of animal welfare was just, and they were all so positive. It was just amazing. And that was a visit from Princess Anne. And another one I did was to a disabled riding centre, which blew me away, to be quite honest. They actually do teach the young people through the horses. And what what we saw in the beginning to what we saw at the end, we were shown a video first of one person that had joined in year 1, and then in year 3, the difference in that young man was just amazing. They take on young people that have come from backgrounds of probably, some of them have been adopted, some of them have had a really bad experience in youth, and have come on to this program. Actually, some are non-verbal when they come on this program, and just the one we looked at was non-verbal when he came. And to see him showing year 1s what to do was just amazing. I didn't know about this before, and I have to say that it's what they do. I mean, they're an educational place as well. They teach them all, through the horses. Everything they do is through the horses. And the way these young people react to that is just incredible, because you're not speaking just to them, you're speaking through the horses. And that's what they like. They don't want to be people telling them what to do. They just say, we do this with the horses, and this sort of shows you what you can do in your own life. Just an amazing centre, and I'm so happy that I went to see it. It really was amazing. So I'm, you know, the meetings that I've been to have been really, really educational and really, really enjoyable. So I just thought I would share those two things with you. We did have, I think I told you in the last one, we did have Sophie. She came twice, one day after another, and we've had Princess Anne twice. And when she came, she said, "Oh, you again," which was quite surprising. Anyway, thank you for listening to those few things. And now I'd like to move on to agenda item 6, which is the leader's report. Members, I invite the leader to present his report.
Chairman, thank you very much. I'm going to start, I thought you were going to mention about a few of the awards, Chairman, so some of my bit is on that. I don't know if you still want to do that, or you just want me to mention them.
If it's on your list.
Well, I need to sort of enforce what you had said about them, Chairman, so slightly tricky. But we'll carry on anyway, I think. So I was going to
Leader,
say...
I will be very happy to speak about those 2 award sessions that we had.
Madam Chairman, shall I let you do that first, because it helps me out
Okay.
considerably.
All right. One of the things that we did was to award officers that have been with us for 25 or 40 years, which I find absolutely amazing. I've been in local government for 25 years, and it's whizzed by, but a lot of the officers that we had, you know, they've all enjoyed what they've done. They're very happy with what they've done. I can't say that any of them said to me, "I'm just happy to be leaving." I think they all have been here 25 years or more, and to give service to this council for that amount of time, 25 was enough, but to get to 40 years, that was just amazing. It really was. Amazing people doing all sorts of different things for Hampshire County Council. And, you know, all of them doing it really, really willingly, which for me was lovely to see. Thank you, Leader.
Chairman, thank you very much. So as I started to mention, we have had numerous awards recently, and I offer my wholehearted congratulations to the officers and partners involved in those outstanding achievements. These awards and the many other awards we have received this year demonstrate that Hampshire County Council is a well-run, high-performing and nationally respected local authority. I am proud to lead the council that consistently achieves such high standards, and I want to thank officers for their continued excellent work delivering services for Hampshire residents. Like households across the country, in Hampshire, we are now looking closely at the detail of the Chancellor's autumn statement to understand what it will mean for our own budgets. This task is important because, like the rest of the local government sector, Hampshire faces budget deficits over the next few years of a scale that we have never seen before. The long-term budgetary pressures facing local government are a result of years of national austerity, inflation and rising demands for services. I'm pleased that the Chancellor announced additional funding for adult social care and schools in the autumn statement. But these grants, though welcome, have only been confirmed for 2 years and will only support a portion of the vital services that the County Council provides to vulnerable adults, children and families. The broader question of how to ensure that local government is placed on a long-term sustainable financial footing remains unanswered. Hampshire County Council has a strong track record of responsible financial management. Unlike many councils which only do financial forecasts year on year, Hampshire looks ahead 3 years. This gives us more time to identify and address challenges coming down the tracks. Without immediate financial assistance and a clear plan for long-term financial sustainability, our forecasts indicate that we are approaching the stage where the County Council cannot close its future budget gaps through our own actions alone. In this worst-case scenario, Hampshire might need to issue a Section 114 notice within the next 2 years. However, I would like to emphasise the time frame is within the next 2 years, not within a few months, as some news reports have mistakenly suggested. Although the current national economic picture is very challenging, it will not improve if local authorities, which provide essential public services to all residents and play a leading role in growing local economies, are forced to strip back those services or declare bankruptcy. That is why I, alongside the leader of Kent County Council, Councillor Roger Goff, wrote to the Prime Minister, Chancellor, Levelling Up Secretary and local MPs last week to set our clear Council's financial position. We asked ministers to sit around the table with us and hold meaningful dialogue by the end of the year. As well as urgent financial assistance, we asked the government for legislative changes and fundamental reform of the way local government is funded and allowed to raise revenue. This would enable responsible councils across the country to take more decisions locally to help themselves out of financial crisis. For example, the overdue reform of the legislation from the 1940s that require councils to provide home-to-school transport would help us target the £42 million per annum we currently spend on this service more effectively to focus on the highest need. And that's really important. While government has given greater flexibility to local authorities around council tax, it is by no means the remedy to the sector overall funding challenges, particularly at a time when household budgets are already facing considerable strain. One possible solution we are keen to explore is the greater freedoms and powers that come with devolution. I'm encouraged by the government's ongoing commitment to the rollout of more devolution deals across the country. We will continue to work with partners across our region to ensure that important progress is maintained, having already submitted our prospectus to government for a county deal for a pan-Hampshire area earlier this autumn. In the meantime, we await news of the provisional local government settlement next month, which will provide crucial detail we need to prepare our budgets for serving the people of Hampshire in 2023-24. Proactive and constructive engagement with our MPs is crucial. Earlier this month, the Deputy Leader and I went to Westminster to discuss with Hampshire MPs the seriousness of the County Council's financial position. We had good conversations and helpful advice from our MPs about working together to make a strong case to central government. I'm pleased that some of our MPs have already written and spoken to ministers on the back of these conversations. We will continue to keep them updated and work closely with them in the coming weeks and months. I would like to reassure members, Hampshire residents and businesses that while these activities with government MPs are taking place, the County Council will remain focused on continuing to deliver our day-to-day services. The most vulnerable in our society, those individuals and families who rely on our adult social care and children's services, will always take priority in the decisions that we make. But it is also important to emphasise that public services delivered by councils are used by all residents. My vision as leader of Hampshire County Council is to make Hampshire a great place for everyone to live, work and play. Everyone works hard and contributes to society should benefit from excellent public services from their local authority. That is why I am making the case for a long-term, fairer funding settlement for Hampshire and the wider sector, not just for the funding we need to support our social care services. Our prudent financial management has given us valuable time to sound these alarm bells to government and our MPs. And we do that so that we can, as an organisation, to address our financial situation. I intend to use this time wisely. Hampshire and Kent's letter to government had a lot of media attention. Both Councillor Gough and I did many interviews with local and national media last week. I intend to keep standing up for Hampshire residents and work closely, constructively and effectively with partners, MPs and central government until Hampshire and the local government sector as a whole are placed on a more sustainable, long-term financial footing. Other matters. I've spoken with the Chief Executive and the Monitoring Officer about technical questions at full council. So members, you will note there is a paper on the agenda today with some constitutional changes consequential upon the new officers' organisation, structure from the 1st of January. Going forward, I will be proposing a further change to the Constitution to enable chief officers to answer technical questions on reports prior to members moving on to debate. This requires a change to standing orders, and I've asked the Chief Executive to progress the necessary report for considering at our February meeting. Matters in Ukraine, Hampshire County Council solidarity with the people of Ukraine remains constant. I'm pleased to announce that in addition to the extra payments we are making to the hosts of Ukraine guests to cover energy and heating costs over the winter, Hampshire County Council intends to make a £200 payment to each guest and £250 per host to support them over the Christmas holiday period. These payments will be funded by the government's grant to support upper-tier local authorities to implement the Homes for Ukraine scheme locally. I hope this announcement will help Hampshire's Ukraine guests to plan and celebrate their first Christmas in this country. Now, members, you'll all be aware about the changes into the structure of the council and some directors and officers leaving the authority. So finally, I wish to pay tribute to 2 directors in our corporate management team and our monitoring officer who are leaving the county council. First, Felicity Rowe, our Director of Culture, Communities and Business Services. Felicity joined Hampshire in 1993, working in senior roles in performance, communications, children's services, before appointment as Director of CCBS in 2018. Felicity is an excellent and exemplary public servant. She has successfully managed more than 30 different services within CCBS Directorate over the last 4 years, which is no mean feat and a real testament to her leadership, dedication and sheer determination to rise to every challenge. She leaves Hampshire County Council with our deepest gratitude for her 29 years of excellent service and our very best wishes for the future. I think that deserves a round of applause. Thank you, Felicity. Secondly, Stuart Jarvis, our Director of Economy, Transport and Environment, who is retiring. Stuart's distinguished career in local government saw him work in Dudley, Southampton, Pembrokeshire and Somerset before joining Hampshire County Council as Deputy Director of Environment in 2004. He was appointed to his current role as Director of ETE in 2011. I've worked closely with Stuart in recent years in my role as Deputy Leader and as Leader and Executive Member for Economic Development. I can honestly say that Stuart is a true gentleman and one of the nicest and most intelligent people I've ever had the pleasure of working with. His impact reaches far beyond the County Council. In fact, some of the MPs I saw earlier this month said to me without prompting that they were very sorry to hear that Stuart would be retiring soon. He will be greatly missed, and I would like to thank Stuart for his outstanding service to Hampshire and local government, and I wish him the very best and a long and happy retirement. Stuart. Lastly, but certainly not least, Barbara Bilwell, or Babs as I now call her, confidently call her, and I think I can get away with that now, although I'm not sure with the look she just given me, but moving away slightly, I think. Our Head of Law and Governance and Monitoring Officer, who is also retiring. Barbara joined the County Council as Senior Solicitor in the planning team in 2002. She was appointed Monitoring Officer in 2009 and took on responsibility for governance and legal services in the years that followed. One of the best pieces of advice that our former Chief Executive, John Coughlin, ever gave me was, whatever you do, listen to Barbara and do what she says. Words of wisdom indeed. And I certainly have always followed that advice, apart from about 2 minutes ago. Many members and officers past and present, including myself, have benefited greatly from her encyclopedic knowledge of local governance and legal expertise. But what I will really miss most when Barbara retires is the twinkle in her eye and a wicked sense of humour, often at my expense, I have to say. I would like to thank Barbara for her outstanding service to Hampshire and local government, and I also wish her the very best for a long and happy retirement. I'm pleased that members and officers will have the opportunity to say a fond farewell to Felicity, Stuart and Barbara next week in Ashburton Hall. If you haven't already done so, please just let the Chief Executive's office know if you are attending, and I look forward to seeing many of you there. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Leader. Can I just follow on from that, from agenda item 5? Following what Rob has just said, CCBS Arts Council National Portfolio Organisations. On Friday the 4th of November, the Arts Council announced their future national portfolio. Our region has done very well indeed. Funding for the county council area has increased threefold, with £2 million per year coming into Hampshire annually for the next 3 years. Of particular note is that Hampshire Cultural Trust, who are partners in our extending organisation, have been awarded £500,000 per year. In addition, many organisations have been awarded funding to work in Arts Council priority places, Rushmore, Gosport and the New Forest. Moving on to ETE, Marketplace Romsey. Planning, design and construction of an historic town central space by the County Council has been recognised after a placemaking scheme was crowned Solent's best new public space by both judges and Hampshire residents. Marketplace in Romsey was both the Judges Award and People's Choice Award in the Partnership for South Hampshire's Solent Quality of Place Awards. The first time in the awards' 10-year history that a scheme has achieved winning 2 accolades. The design team for Marketplace comprised Hampshire County Highways, Hampshire County Council Highways engineers, transport planners and landscape architects, working closely with Test Valley Borough Council to produce the design proposals, and in close consultation with the Romsey Steering Board, whose members were senior representatives from the County Council, Test Valley Borough Council and Romsey Town Council, as well as local community interest groups. National UK Highway Awards, an innovative project that recycles road material and helps to produce carbon savings as well as save money, has scooped Hampshire County Council with its highway partner Milestone a national award. At the awards ceremony in London on Wednesday the 19th of October, Hampshire County Council and Milestone received the Environmental Sustainability Award and Special Merit Award and were highly commended in the category for partnership working at the National UK Highways Awards. The awards recognise the County Council's collaborative working with Milestone Infrastructure and OCL, a renowned specialist in materials recycling, in the creation and use of the new facility based at Micherdeva, which recycles large quantities of old road materials for reuse across Hampshire's road network, resulting in significant carbon savings and reduced reliance on external supply chains. Can I just also mention that during my last couple of months, I've been really, really busy, and I've missed out Law Sunday services that I went to at the cathedral, and the staff remembrance service on the 11th of November, which many of you came to. So thank you for that, my fellow councillors. So we'll now move on to item 7, which is members. The list of questions is published, and there is 30 minutes in total. I'll call each member on the list in turn to put their questions. Yeah. Okay, shall we go to the first question, please? And it's from Councillor Hugh Lumby to Councillor Edward Heron, Executive Lead Member for Transport Environment Strategy.
Thank you, Chair. Is this working? Yes, I watched the video. I have performed. I have a small voice issue, Chair, so can I put my question as read to Councillor Heron? It relates to our chalk streams in Hampshire. Thank you.
Thank you.
Members, the question from Councillor Humby. Can you please confirm what steps are being taken to protect our environmentally...
Lumby, not Humby.
Lumby, sorry. Not much difference. Can you please confirm what steps are being taken to protect our environmentally important chalk streams? In particular, confirming what is being done to prevent four-wheel drive vehicles crossing the River Meon in Droxford via the U189, causing substantial damage in the vicinity.
Can I ask Councillor Heron to reply to this?
Chairman, thank you. Thank you, Councillor Lumby, for the question. The County Council is very aware of the environmental importance of chalk streams and the need to protect water quality and the river environment where possible. As an example, routine gully maintenance is regularly reviewed near known sensitive locations, and where necessary, cleansing frequencies are increased to minimise the risk of road contaminants entering these rivers. The overall approach to the chalk stream environment is, of course, a much wider issue than highways. With regard to U189 Mill Lane at Droxford, it is important to be clear that this forms part of the publicly maintainable highway and crosses the River Meon via a ford, the use of which by vehicles is therefore currently lawful and is a long-established right. Highway officers are aware of recent local complaints regarding the use of the ford and are currently investigating the matter further, with the assistance from legal colleagues given the nature of the issues and the complaints. This includes assessing recently received evidence from local residents relating to alleged damage from road users. It is too early to say whether any new measures are required to manage traffic at this point, but any change to the legal status of this section of Mill Lane would require legal processes which are likely to be opposed in principle and therefore protracted in time, based on the recent experience elsewhere in Hampshire. Therefore, any recommended action here will almost certainly require a formal report to a future decision day with recommendations and comprehensive supporting evidence. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you have a follow-up from that?
A very quick one, thank you, Chair, and thank you to the executive member for his answer. Just a simple question. Could I please have his answer in writing? I think he may have voice issues too. Thank you.
Happily to meet with you and discuss that matter further.
Thank you.
Thank you. We go on to question 2 from Councillor Kim Taylor to Councillor Rob Humby, Leader and Executive Member for Policy, Resources and Economic Development. Councillor Taylor, I'm quite happy for you to sit if you'd like to.
Thank you, Chair. In full council on the 29th September, the leader reassured members that he was engaging with Hampshire's MPs, the government, the Department for Levelling Up Housing and Communities and Treasury officials to ensure the County Council's forecast position was fully understood and what the consequences would be if not addressed in time. Can the leader please provide an update on activities undertaken and any progress made? I appreciate you've covered a bit of this, but I didn't know if you had more to add.
Leader?
Thank you, Chairman. And I thank Councillor Taylor for her question, and I really do thank Councillor Taylor for her question because it has given me an opportunity to remind, and you're quite right, I did mention some of this earlier. So it is an opportunity to update members on the activity that I've been undertaking, supported by Councillor Chad. Since the end of September, I've appeared on Radio 4 to openly outline the difficult financial position that we face, and have again since. Held a joint meeting with MPs in early November, at which our Chief Executive and Chief Financial Officer outlined our challenging financial position and the impact that past savings programmes have had on our services. Met a number of our MPs individually to engage them on how they can best support the County Council in getting our messages across to government. And I'm arranging further meetings in the new year to take forward the specifics on this with them. As you've heard as well, I've written a letter to Michael Gove setting out the County Council's ambitions to be in the next wave of the County Deal negotiations. Work closely with the Leader of Kent, as you've heard, County Council, on our financial positions, and sent a joint letter to the Prime Minister, Chancellor and Secretary of State for Levelling Up Housing and Communities, requesting urgent talks about our financial position and local government funding system that is not fit for purpose. I provided all councillors with a copy of these letters already. Been in contact with the County Council's network and the LGA. Indeed, we had the conference in the last few days and attended that and had many conversations around this as well with my colleagues there. To indicate that we are all ready to fully engage in any future lobbying they may wish to undertake. I'd also like to assure members that I will continue to keep up the momentum on this activity and will write again to the government once we have details of the provisional local government finance settlement due out in December. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Leader. Do you have a follow-up question?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Leader, could you explain what you believe the consequences for residents might be if the government failed to act? And would you agree with me that the only realistic prospect of achieving a fair settlement is through a change of government? And if not, how would you assess your chances of success with the current government?
Follow that, Leader.
Well, interesting question. First of all, in terms of what the consequences are, we won't fully know that till we know what that settlement is. And we won't, which is why I stressed several times today, we need to wait for that to happen. In terms of your sort of follow-up question, no, I don't agree with that until I know I've had those conversations.
Thank you, Leader. Can we now go on to question 3, which is Councillor Alex Crawford to Councillor Jan Warwick.
Thank you, Chairman. The Secretary-General of the United Nations highlighted the increased urgency of action needed on climate change when he opened COP27 this month by stating that the clock is ticking with the planet fast approaching tipping points that make climate chaos irreversible. He called for greater urgency, stronger action, and effective accountability. Will Council therefore revisit its climate change strategy and action plan to aim to be carbon neutral earlier than the present target of 2050 and to prepare to be resilient to the impacts of temperature rises greater than the present level of 2 degrees C? Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Warwick.
Yes, thank you very much, Chairman, and thank you to Councillor Crawford for your question. I know you're a great advocate for climate change mitigation. So the County Council declared a climate change emergency in 2019, as you know, and that demonstrates that this council recognises the need for local government and for a good local government response to the global climate change and crisis. The Council's target to be carbon neutral by 2050 is aligned with the national government target. This timeframe will enable the County Council to realistically deliver on its commitments, rather than publicly committing to something that cannot be delivered or achieved. The target is for the whole of Hampshire, rather than just the Council's own estate, which actually constitutes less than 2% of Hampshire's total emissions. So our current approach, combined with changes to national policy and funding between now and 2050, will enable the County Council to act in the areas where it has influence but less direct control. Hampshire was unique amongst all our county councils in declaring a second target to be resilient to a 2-degree change and increase in global temperatures and warming. Building resilience is not only just about infrastructure, but also about supporting communities to cope with the social and health impacts of climate change. Changing this target would not change our approach. However, as Councillor Crawford's question alludes, one of the key principles of our climate change strategy is to accelerate where possible. And any and every opportunity for this will be taken with consideration of the availability of resources and as a joint effort amongst all our partners. We have an annual assessment of the BEIS, that's the Department of Business, Energy and Industrial Strategy, emissions data ensures we are working in the most impactful and appropriate way. Using our limited resources to influence, to advocate, and to facilitate action on climate change is our primary role, something that is only becoming ever more important as we enter a period of unprecedented financial pressure. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Councillor Crawford, do you have another question?
Yes, Chairman. Isn't it the case that the government appears to be moving backwards, because in declaring that they're going to ask for windfall tax on oil and gas companies, they've given them a huge let-out of 91p in the pound tax relief, provided they invest further in oil and gas projects into the future. And that's exactly what the COP27 was saying would be counterproductive, because that would allow even more gases to be...
Can you just tell me what the question is here?
That was the question.
Thank you, Chairman. I can answer that just briefly. I know your own leader, Sir Keir, addressed the CBI this week, and he said, I don't see climate change as a risk. I see it as an opportunity. And I would just say to you, Councillor Crawford, that this authority sees climate change as a priority, and it's embedded in everything that we do. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Warwick and Councillor Crawford. We go into question 4, Councillor Juliet Henderson to Councillor Ros Chad.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, my question is to the Executive Member for Children's Services, Councillor Chad. I very much welcome the news of a new school in my division at Hounsome Fields. Given the significant amount of development in that area, I'd like to understand how the pressure on primary school places will be managed.
Councillor Chad.
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you, Councillor Henderson, for the question. I am pleased to confirm that we are at the design stage for providing a new two-form entry primary school with resource provision to serve the developments of Hounsome Fields and the former golf course site. Details about the new school will be reported in the Children's Services January Capital Programme, but I can confirm that the new school is currently scheduled for opening in September 2025. This will continue our policy, where possible, of providing local schools for local children. Thank you.
Do you have a follow-up question?
Thank you, Chairman. Yes. My question is, given that we're trying to encourage active travel and given the very busy nature of the roads around that area of my division, could priority please be given to developing really good safe walking routes for parents?
Councillor Chad.
Thank you, Chairman. To confirm, the layout of the development site was evaluated with the emphasis on both walking and cycling. And further to this, there is a proposed signalised crossing on the A30 that will link the golf course development to the school.
Move on to question 5 from Councillor Jackie Porter to Councillor Ros Chad.
Thank you. What percentage of the children taking up government subsidised holiday scheme places are children who would normally receive free school meals? And that includes the Key Stage 1 children who all receive a free school meal.
Councillor Chad.
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you, Councillor Porter, for your question. The Holiday Activity and Food Programme does not keep data specific to Key Stage 1, but does have data at primary school level. This tells us that 93% of the primary age children, some 9,241 of children who accessed the Hampshire's government subsidy holiday scheme places during the summer of 2022 were eligible for income-related free school meals, with a further 7%, that's 644, who access through discretionary funding. Under the term of the HAF grant, this discretionary funding allows us to facilitate access for children who are not free school meal eligible, but we believe are vulnerable and would benefit from those places. The HAF funding in the summer 2022 reached 36% of primary and secondary children eligible for free school meals.
Thank you, Councillor Chad. Now we can go on now to the second
Can I
question.
have my supplementary, please? Can I have the supplementary, please? Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Harvey. The support package is really welcome, but to be eligible for a free school meal, parents have less than an income of £7,400. As you and I well know, that's about £600 a month. At £2.80 for a school lunch, a family of 2 children has a bill of £112 to pay every month. Will the County Council use the same channels recently used to lobby so well for more money for the County Council, to lobby for a more generous offer to all families on universal credit, so that more children in low-income families will benefit from free school meals and all these other advantages that that brings?
Councillor Chad.
I need you to turn yours on. We're on. Thank you. Yes, we will always, more funding is always more welcome, and we always highlight the needs of our families in Hampshire. I think you all know it's a personal thing of mine. It's those that don't necessarily reach that eligibility for free school meals that we need to consider as well.
Thank you. We share that.
Thank you very much. We're going to go to second questions because we still have 12 and a half minutes left. So from Councillor Kim Taylor to Councillor Nick Adams-King, Executive Member for Highways and Operations.
Thank you, Chair. Following termination of the Council's on-street parking and traffic management agency agreement with districts, which takes effect on the 31st of March 23, there has been increasing confusion about the transition arrangements and how the public and councillors should contact Hampshire County Council for matters that normally would have been dealt with under that arrangements. Some districts, such as Basingstoke-Deane, have adopted the principle of only dealing with existing matters and rejecting any new inquiry, referring the inquirer to contact Hampshire Direct, whilst other districts seem to be processing new requests and passing on to Hampshire to deal with. Our county website still refers residents to go to the districts rather than to here. And can the executive member please confirm exactly how these transition arrangements should be working and the arrangements for the public and councillors to report matters normally dealt with under that agreement?
Councillor Adams-King. Adams-King, sorry.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. And thank you, Councillor Taylor, for your question. So, as usual with anything to do with ETE, this is an answer full of acronyms, so I'll try and read them out and remember what they all are. The TM, Traffic Management and Civil Parking Enforcement, CPE, agency agreements will return to the County Council in April 2023. The parking team has held regular monthly meetings with all of those affected authorities since the decision was made to give notice of the termination on these agency agreements. For the CPE service, that's the Civil Parking Enforcement, districts have been reminded that they are still responsible for on-street CPE, including the issuing of penalty charge notices, inquiries regarding residents' parking permits, as well as suspensions and waivers until the end of March 2023. Requests for new parking controls under the traffic management agencies should also be managed by the districts until they return to the County Council on the 1st of April. All districts have been provided with the same standard text to use when dealing with these requests. So there should be no differential between them. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you have a supplementary?
Certainly I do. Unfortunately, what's just been expressed is not what's happening, and I have plenty of examples here on my laptop to share later. So could I please ask the Cabinet member to agree to arrange for written guidance on the transition arrangements to be circulated to all affected councillors during the next few weeks so we can explain to the districts when they rebut things what they should be doing?
Thank you.
Yes, I'm very happy to arrange for that to happen. We've also, from the question that Councillor Crawford asked me at the last council meeting, we've undertaken to give everybody a briefing about how the transition arrangements will work in the new year, so that will be happening too. I have to say that the district teams are still continuing to work, and they should all be working in the same way. Any new applications coming in should be dealt with them, and if they can't be completed within the time frame that there is before the transition arrangements are undertaken, then they will be coming back into the County Council and will be dealt with in the normal way through our usual procedures around that then. I look forward to looking at your laptop and finding all of the different examples that you can give me, which I'm very happy to take away and try and sort out. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Now we go to Councillor Jackie Porter to Councillor Edward Heron.
Thank you, Councillor Heron. Now the pandemic measures have been scaled back. When will you be restoring full pedestrian access to HWRCs, please?
Councillor Heron.
Thank you, Councillor Porter, for the question. I think it's useful that you ask it because while this has actually been answered a number of occasions and covered in the executive member's report, I think it's useful to say again, the restriction of pedestrians into HWRCs was not a pandemic measure, it was a health and safety measure. Now that became more apparent because of the booking system, but actually we have never encouraged pedestrians to walk into our household waste recycling centres. None of them are designed for pedestrian access. Most of them have fairly narrow vehicular access coming in, and it really isn't safe. Now, there are two HWRCs where we have maintained the ability for people to enter on foot. I will say that for the level of usage, these are showing that actually we're losing an awful lot of car slots for a very small number of people accessing on foot. The other thing I just would say on this is I think we do have to question why people might be wanting to access on foot given the limited amount of waste they can carry and what services are being provided by their district and borough council. Now, I do understand anecdotally some of this is green waste that people want to bring in. So I think it's interesting to just talk to districts and boroughs and see what they're doing to promote home composting and also what they're charging and whether they're increasing their green waste collection charges. But to answer the Council Porter's question, there are no changes planned currently for the pedestrian access, but of course we always keep that under review as demand changes.
Thank you. Do you have a supplementary?
Yes, please. For the lady who was trying to get rid of a large piece of electrical waste, you can't put that in with your green waste. But my question is really, how come that we can expect a resident to walk across a road where the traffic is at 30 miles an hour with no specific traffic management issues, and we say, or measures, and we say that it's fine for them to do that, but they can't walk into an HWRC because they don't have a car, and they can't walk into that HWRC when the traffic can be managed down to snail's pace. I have to say, I cannot understand why this has changed so dramatically and how it loses car parking spaces. And I really have to question that. Why does it lose those car parking spaces when those people could go in at the same time with a bit of careful design and management?
Councillor Heron.
Yes, well, thank you. I think I don't want to comment on the professional advice of our health officers who deal with health and safety, but if you'd like to understand those assessments, I'm sure the director would arrange a briefing with you, but I certainly wouldn't second-guess health and safety advice from officers and put people at risk in doing so.
Thank you. We're now going to go... No, the time's got... Yes, we're now going to go to third questions. Again, from Councillor Jackie Porter to Councillor Edward Heron again.
Sorry, I'm just trying out the new system. Which junctions within the county highway system are causing safety concerns because of their accident record?
Councillor Heron.
Thank you. I had to shuffle for the right page as well, okay, supporter. Junctions within the county's highway system that are subject to safety concerns are identified in the casualty reduction sub-programme of the Environment and Transport Capital Programme. Quarterly capital programme reports are made to the Executive Lead Member for Transport and Environment Strategy, with the latest update having been on the 7th of November. The Casualty Reduction Programme is a dynamic one which is kept under review, with new schemes added as required during the year. In the current programme, there are 107 schemes listed, of which 45 sites are at a junction, 3 or 4 are, including 4-way signalised junctions, 21 are at roundabouts, 2 of which are signalised, and the remaining 41 are either routes located at bends or county-wide or were identified by county-wide studies. The quarterly capital programme reports are readily available to members through the normal channels.
Do you have a supplementary?
I do, thank you. Firstly, I'd really appreciate a written version of that answer because many people ask me that. And can I ask, is the Cart and Horses Junction included in that list?
Councillor Heron.
The Cart and Horses Junction is not currently identified on that list, but actually, I think that's really useful, if you don't mind, just to comment on that, in the fact that we had the deputation today, and there have been some recent accidents there. I think it's important just to say, because I think there was a little misapprehension in there that we hadn't done anything for 21 years. The answer is in 2017, we did undertake measures there, including bringing in street lighting, reducing the speed limit and changing some of the lining there. But after any incident, it is important that we, as council and our highways engineer, understand the causes and the contributory factors to that. And that is done by the police sharing with us the findings of those incidents. And that happens in any casualty incident. We are still awaiting that from the recent incidents, and I will just say well, there may be a slight delay in that. As I understand, the police are considering legal proceedings, and it would be entirely inappropriate for us to carry out forward. But once we have those findings from the incidents, they are then assessed by officers, and where highways matters are shown to be a cause or a significant contributory factor, that will then enter into the updating of that priority list. Thank you.
Thank you. I think in the nearly 9 years I've been here, I don't think we've ever got to third questions before, but I'm really glad that we were able to. Members, we're going to go now to agenda item 8, which is constitutional matters. Members, I invite the leader to present the report.
Chairman, thank you. Members, the report before you sets out a number of constitutional changes as follows. I have recently made some changes to the executive portfolios of Cabinet members to support the new organisational structure, both of which will come into effect on the 1st of January. These changes are set out in Appendix 1 to the report. To reflect the changes to the executive portfolio, members are asked to approve the changes to Select Committee's responsibilities as set out in Appendix 2 of the report, also to come into effect on the 1st of January. For clarity, the former Policy and Resources Select Committee will become Hampshire 2050, Corporate Services and Resources. The former Transport and Environment Select Committee will become Universal Services. Transport and Environment and the former Countryside Culture and Community Select Committee will become Universal Services, Countryside and Regulatory Services. Membership of the committees remain the same for the moment. However, to enable myself and other group leaders to make any changes between now and the 1st of January, I am proposing an additional recommendation as follows. So this will be recommendation F. That the County Council delegates authority to the monitoring officer in consultation with the relevant political group leader to make any changes to membership on the select committees as referred to at Appendix 2 between the date of this County Council meeting and the 1st of January 2023. Section 3 of the report sets out proposed changes to the terms of reference for the Pension Fund Panel and Board to allow Hampshire Pension Fund Scheme members who are local government electors in the County Council's area to make deputations to the Pension Fund Panel and Board and its subcommittees. As you are aware, we now have the option for digital voting in the Chamber. In future, it is considered that all matters which require a recorded vote should be determined by way of digital voting. However, in the interest of efficiency, and where it is anticipated by the Chairman that members will be in agreement on a recommendation or other question, it is considered that the current procedure of voting by show of hands should continue. In cases where the Chairman considers the outcome of voting on a recommendation or other question is uncertain, or in any other case where the Chairman considers this appropriate, digital voting should apply. I move the recommendations, including the additional one. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Leader. Members, are there any questions or debate? Councillor Kempji.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairman. May I draw your attention to paragraph 3.3 on page 14. There is an unfortunate typographical error in this paragraph, line 4, where it says, allow Hampshire Pension Fund Scheme members who are local government electors in the county. It should read, who are not local government electors in the county. It is correct in the appendix, and I don't think it changes the recommendation. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Kempji. Any more questions? Councillor Taylor?
Thank you, Chair. It's a quick procedural question, really. One of the things I noticed recently when we had a committee change its name, which was Transport One recently changed its name, is that all minutes and access to previous documentation completely disappeared from the Hants.gov and off our website because it had changed. And if we're going to have another change, we're going to have that set of circumstances again. And unless you have a very old link or can get an old link to previous committees when they change their name, it's very difficult to get hold of the documentation. So can I ask that that issue be considered about how we ensure access to all past documentation is curated in a way that councillors can find it?
Thank you, Councillor Taylor.
Yes, certainly. We'll make sure that is the case and have conversations with officers to address that issue. Thank you.
Are there any more questions? So, Councillor Harrison.
Thank you, Chairman. In considering new constitutional arrangements, I wonder whether the leader had any thought at all to a return to a committee system, which would have the impact of giving devolution within the county council. I know that he's very keen on devolution and he often goes to Westminster making the case for it, but surely the argument would be strengthened if we had devolution within the county council, making our roles as backbench councillors more meaningful.
Thank you, Councillor Harrison. Leader?
Madam Chairman, I think there's devolution and devolution, and no, I hadn't considered that devolution.
Thank you. Are there any more questions? Okay, any debate? So, members, I put the recommendations A to E on pages 14 and 15 and the additional recommendation F proposed by the leader to the vote. All those in favour? So I think that is carried. Thank you. Appointments. Chairman, I invite the leader to present the report.
Madam Chairman, thank you. Members, the report before you proposes some changes to the membership of county council committees. I have one additional proposal, which is to appoint Philip Reynolds as a substitute scheme member representative on the pension fund panel. With this additional appointment, I move the recommendations, Madam Chairman. Thank you.
Members, I put the recommendations on page 41 to the vote. All those in favour?
Agreed.
I think that's probably carried. Including the additional recommendation. Agenda item 10. Appointment of monitoring officer and appointment of data protection officer, pages 41 and 42. Can I invite the leader to present this?
Madam Chairman, thank you. Members, as mentioned in my earlier leader's report, the County Council's current monitoring officer will be retiring from the organisation on the 31st of March 2023. To ensure a smooth transition in the lead up to the end of March and to support the new organisational structure on the 1st of January, it is proposed that a redesignation of the role of monitoring officer also takes place effect from the 1st of January. Again, to support the new organisational structure, it is proposed that responsibility for oversight of the County Council's corporate complaints procedure, including data protection and freedom of information matters, that is currently responsibility of the monitoring officer, should instead fall within the responsibilities of the Director of People and Organisation, currently the Director of HR and OD, Communications and Engagement. I move the recommendations, Chairman. Thank you.
Members, are there any questions? Any debate? Thank you for that. So I put the recommendations A to Z on page 44 to the vote. All in favour?
Agreed.
I think that's probably agreed then. Thank you. So now we're going on to agenda item 11. Can I just remind members of the dispensation from the Conduct Advisory Panel allowing members to speak and vote on this item? We can take it as read that members have declared an interest. So let's move to members. I invite the leader to present this report. Councillor Hughes, can I ask you to present this? Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I had the pleasure of chairing the last meeting of the Employment in Hampshire County Council committee meeting, and the report before you asked members to agree a number of proposed amendments to the present members' allowance scheme, together with a general adjustment to basic allowances and special responsibility allowances following the recent staff pay award. The report proposes a special responsibility allowance for the Deputy Leader of the Council, recognising the additional specific requirements of the role in terms of executive responsibility. The report also proposes new formulas for calculations of special responsibility allowances for minority group leaders and minority group spokesmen, recognising the present political makeup of the Council and at the same time future-proofing calculation of the allowances for the administration in the future. The proposed amendments to the Members' Allowance Scheme have been considered by the Independent Remuneration Panel in accordance with the requirements of the Members' Allowances Regulations and by the EHCC Committee. The EHCC Committee were in support of the recommendations of the IRP, save for a minor adjustment to the formula proposed by the IRP for the calculation of the SRA for minority group spokespersons to make the method of allowance of the SRA the same for all political groups qualifying for the allowance. The adjustment of this calculation is detailed in para 2.3 on page 47 of the report. There was widespread agreement within the committee for a fair and consistent approach to the allowances across the various groupings. And I was very pleased that Councillor Collett, who was present that day, not here today, which may be coincidental, I'm sure, offered the proposal for an adjustment, even though it would impact on him personally. And that in no way influenced the decision of the committee to accept the recommendations. It is proposed that the changes to the scheme are backdated to the AGM in May of this year, and that there should be a review of the proposed allowance for the Deputy Leader and formulas for calculation of allowances for minority group leaders and spokesperson in 12 months' time. A copy of the report considered by the EHCC Committee, including the minutes of the IRP meeting contained in the recommendations of the IRP, are contained in Appendix 1 to this report. Members, the recommendations are contained at paragraphs A to E of this report, and I would recommend these to the Council. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hughes. Are there any questions? Any debate? I'm sure you're very happy about that. Oh, there is one. Thank you, Councillor Parker-Jones.
Thank you very much. You would probably think that I would be very pro this recommendation, but unfortunately I think the situation in this country has changed dramatically, and I think a lot of people are really feeling the pinch. And I find it incongruous that we're talking about increasing allowances at a time when services are being cut. As somebody who doesn't have additional jobs, so this is my only income, you'll probably find it really strange that I'm actually saying I don't think we should be having any additional allowances for anybody on top of our basic allowance because we signed up to be councillors. I fully understand that having some additional money really helps, and I was pleased to see that there was going to be some equity. But I don't think the equity went far enough. in those areas where it could have. Because it basically said, because you're in a smaller group, you do less work, which is absolutely, I find that absolutely outrageous, to be honest. Because I do attend all the briefings, I do read all the minutes and the meetings, and I do go to all the decision days, which may not necessarily be said of all spokespersons. So unfortunately, though I would love to support this, I don't feel able to when I know that there are members of my community who are having to attend food banks, when there are staff who face losing their jobs, when services are being cut. So I'm very sorry, I can't support it.
Thank you very much. Any other questions? Any debate? Okay, so members, I've put the recommendations on A to E on pages 48 and 49 to the vote. Can you please show? Thank you, that's carried. Sorry. All those in favour, show again, please. Thank you. Any against? Thank you very much. So that means that the recommendation is carried. We go to item 12, update to the local protocol for regulatory committee, pages 105 to 148. Members, I invite the leader to present the report.
Thank you, Chairman.
Councillor Latham.
I'm happy to present the updated protocol for the Regulatory Committee, which forms part of our constitution. The last update was in 2014, and it was felt by legal officers that it was in need of an update to take into account current legislation and good practice. And it finally came to our committee last month, when we finally agreed to the new protocol. I say finally because we actually had 2 goes at it. We tried in February to get it through, but there were a number of issues which needed further consideration, and it was sent back to the officers to look at it again. They did, and they brought it back to us in July, and we didn't like it either then. So it went back to the officers, and at my suggestion, members were invited to put to the officers the amendments that they would like, or ways in which they thought they could improve it. Well, they did that, which was really helpful, and so that when it came back to the committee in October, and we realised that what we really wanted was a recommendation from the Regulatory Committee that the new protocol could be approved so that we could present it to you. And at that meeting, there was one abstention, but other than that, everybody else agreed to the new protocol. It's set out in this report. I commend it to the Council and hope you can all support it so it will become part of our protocol for the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Latham. Are there any questions to Councillor Latham? Any debate? Councillor Cooper.
Can I just add very, very briefly to what has just been said by Councillor Latham, and that is that the whole consideration was done under a very democratic process where a number of us put in submissions and we gradually evolved the statements. And I can truly say that the outcome is one which we're all very happy with. Basically, the issue was whether attendance should be compulsory or whatever at site visits. And it was agreed that if people couldn't make site visits, then they shouldn't be on regulatory. But equally, it would be left to the group leaders to discipline members for not appearing and so on, rather than for the standing orders to actually discipline us or whatever else. We're all old people here, I think, don't like being told what to do. So I'm very, very happy with the resolution that we have, and with Councillor Latham's management of the process.
Thank you, Councillor Cooper. Any more questions? Any debate? So, members, I put the recommendations on A and B on page 107 to the vote. All those in favour? Any against? So the recommendation is carried. Thank you. We're going on now to item 13, which is Hampshire and Isle of Wight Fire and Rescue Authority. No questions have been submitted and there are no report of the authority on this occasion. Everybody happy? Agenda item 14, constitutional arrangements, appointments to the Health and Wellbeing Board for Hampshire, pages 149 to 150. Members, I invite Councillor Liz Fairhurst to present the report.
Thank you, Chairman. I'd just like to present this report. All we're doing is replacing 2 existing members with 2 new members. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any questions? Or are there any questions? Any debate? Thank you. Let's move to the next item then. Agenda item 15, executive and committee reports. The Leader and the Cabinet, pages 151 to 152. Leader?
Madam Chairman, happy to present the report as set out in the papers and happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Any questions? Debate? Let's move on then to Executive Lead Member for Children's Services, pages 153 to 154, Councillor Chad.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm happy to present this report and take any questions.
Thank you, Councillor Chad. Any questions? No debate? Thank you. So, Executive Member for Climate Change and Sustainability, Councillor Warwick.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chairman. I'm very happy to present this report. For noting by members, I wanted to bring this to your attention. This is the annual climate change report. There's a link in your papers, and it summarises the steady progress being made by this authority and Hampshire's communities in initiatives to both reduce emissions and increase resilience to climate change across the county. The energy work progress in the last year has taken us forwards in our ambition to increase both renewable energy generation and energy efficiency. I'm heartened by the extremely positive response we've seen from communities to the programmes we have supported, the Greening Campaign, Community Energy South and Solar Together. The Year of Climate Resilience has also successfully drawn attention to this critical issue and showcased a wide range of activities right across the county. I would particularly like to thank Chicha Nadaraja and her team for the continued positive progress being made on this agenda, and I'm very encouraged to see that climate change will now be part of the Hampshire 2050 Directorate and will put this at the heart of the Council's priorities. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Warwick. Councillor Porter?
Thank you. Thank you very much for that report, Councillor Warwick. You will be aware that I've been watching the progress of Solar Together. I know that it had a stuttering start, but it moved on well. I just wanted to know how many people now have actually had solar panels installed on their properties as a result of the Solar Together scheme.
Councillor Warwick?
Thank you, Councillor Porter. I know you've taken a very keen interest. And in fact, we presented an update on Solar Together at the Environment and Transport Committee recently. I know the second iteration of Solar Together was oversubscribed. So I'm not going to give detailed numbers, but we're in the thousands. So I will be able to give you the latest update, the written update on the numbers that have had panels installed and the numbers that are waiting for their assessment. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillors, are there any more questions? And no debate? Thank you. So, members and honorary aldermen, thank you for your attendance. But before we go, I'd like to ask, I've been asked to remind the councillors about possible gifts for care leavers and a £1 or £2 for the Christmas cake competition in our residential and daycare service. So if any of you would like to contribute, I'm sure you know exactly where to go. So thank you, members and honorary aldermen. Thank you for your attendance today. I can now confirm the meeting is closed. Please stop the webcast. Thank you.